lead 'em and the places they go? Is it just the time of year or the season of life that takes me from you and brings me way up here? The more love you show me, the more I seem to need to be alone. I've been spilling secrets to the rain, hinting at unhappiness I'm not brave enough to claim, watching myself from above, trying to remember all the ways I once fell in love. The more you are certain, the more I seem to need to be alone. My heart's like a rabbit thumping its foot on the ground, ready to run at the slightest sound. The way you get talking when it's late at night, you know what you want, and I can't decide. The more love you show me, the more I seem to need to be
The Ridge by Jobi Riccio for World Cafe. That song is from her upcoming new album, Face the Feeling. I'm Raina Douris. Jobi Riccio is my guest today. Jobi, welcome to the World Cafe.
Thank you for having me.
Happy to have you here. When you play that song, The Ridge, you've said that you picture a very specific place, a specific ridge. Where is that ridge? Tell us about it.
It's in Morrison, Colorado, where I'm from originally. It's actually a kind of a series of ridges. We call them hogbacks, actually.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, I realized actually that was a niche term. When we were looking at what to do for the album artwork for the single, I had the idea and I was like, oh, like a hogback. And I was talking to the album graphic designer at Yup Rock Records, the label I'm on, and he's from North Carolina, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
It's again really different record cover back.
Yeah.
So it's just a pig's back.
I don't know where that term comes from, but we call them hogbacks in the region where I'm from. And I grew up with a lot of access to neighborhood trails, which I'm so grateful for, and just like amazing access to nature. And I feel like I spent almost every weekend just going out on the same system of trails probably in my neighborhood, most of them going up these ridges and hogbacks in that area around Red Rocks Amphitheater.
Yeah. I was going to ask you what it was like to grow up there, because it feels like growing up in Morrison, Colorado, near Red Rocks would be sort of a strange, beautiful, and maybe interesting place because you are so close to this giant venue. You're also surrounded by like incredible nature, and you're kind of in the middle of nowhere at the same time.
Yeah, well, it's becoming less and less the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And out west, there's so few trees that it's like you can just kind of watch the suburban sprawl. It's honestly depressing, like creeps closer and closer and closer of the Denver metro area, like get closer and closer and closer into the hills.
Right.
And I watched that kind of my whole life. Now when I go back, none of my family lives in Morrison anymore. But now when I go back, I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, it's so much more developed up there than it's ever been. It's a really interesting place. And I think that I wasn't necessarily aware. I did know from a young age that I wanted to be a singer. Mm-hmm. I knew that I loved singing and I liked performing, but I didn't know that I was like, I want to be a musician who plays Red Rocks necessarily. Like, I guess the further away from it I get, the more I'm realizing like, oh yeah, that has had like a big monumental impact on my psyche. And like, yeah, the day I play there is gonna be, if I get to play there,
It would be surreal.
would be really, really surreal.
Yeah. Would
yeah.
you, when you went like trail hiking and stuff, would you listen to music while you walked around?
So before the iPod, no. And before,
No Discman, no Walkman.
no. Often when I was a little kid, no. And I think about like we had magpies. So like the sound of a magpie is like very comforting to me. It's like kind of this awful noise too. It's like, I'm not going to do an imitation live on World Cafe.
I
But
kind of want you to. But.
don't do that to me. But yeah, y'all can look it up.
Okay.
And then I think when I got my first iPod, like maybe like late middle school, I think I probably started listening to music on hikes and walks. And really like and it was good because it was like when you really start to get angsty, that's when you want. That's when it's, you're in the backseat of the car, the rain's coming down, you're looking out the window, wire headphones in, just like no one gets me.
No one understands.
That was me, on the way to middle school and then also walking on the ridge.
What are some examples of that formative music you would be listening to?
Oh man, Paramore in middle school. I listened to a lot of them. I listened to a lot of Coldplay. I listened to a lot of Fleet Foxes. I listened to also a lot of bluegrass growing up, a lot of country. I listened to The Strokes. Now I'm really thinking specifically middle school. But then I also listened to a lot of my parents' music. So 60s, 70s songwriters, John Prine, Joni Mitchell. Also like Sheryl Crow. The Chicks were huge for me. Yeah, I've kind of always been all over the place, but I would say that like when I really got angsty, I was honestly listening to Coldplay and Radiohead a lot. Those were my boys.
Radiohead is like prime angsty teenage.
Oh yeah.
Time.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And honestly, still prime angsty adult time sometimes.
Oh, please. It hits crazy. Yeah.
When did you realize and decide that you wanted to write songs yourself?
Probably around age 11 or 12.
What was it that made you, like, was there a trigger moment you can remember?
I don't know. I don't really think so. I think I do remember hearing Taylor Swift and that having an impact on me, her first CD, and being like, oh, girl with guitar who wrote all her own songs, like that narrative being really potent. Mm-hmm. And I was like, as a little kid, listening to country radio and being like, oh, that's cool that she wrote the songs and has something to say. And it felt very like that first record of hers felt very like I could identify with it as an 8-year-old girl.
Sure.
Or however old I was, maybe like 10 or something. And also just I would listen to the radio and ask my mom, what do the lyrics of this song mean? Like she always tells this story about how I Will Follow You Into the Dark was a smash hit on radio. Mm-hmm. And we were driving in the mountains one day. We had just gone on this hike, and I asked her, like, Mom, what does this song mean? Like, it's a song about death. Like, I need to know what he's talking about. Like, what is vacancy? What does the word vacancy mean? No vacancy, the sign system. Like, she was like, are you listening to the lyrics of the song? I was like 8 or something, maybe. Death Cab for Cutie was a big angster for me. Ooh, transatlanticism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's listen to a bit of I Will Follow You Into the Dark from Death Cab for Cutie. This is World Cafe.
If heaven and hell decide that they both are satisfied, and illuminate the nose on their vacancy signs, if there's no one beside you when your soul embarks, then I'll follow you into the dark.
That's Death Cab for Cutie. I Will Follow You Into the Dark. I'm talking to Jobi Riccio on World Cafe today. And that was a song that she listened to as a really little kid, started thinking about the lyrics in there. Do you remember what any of your early songs were about?
Oh. I was just kind of copying what other people's songs were. So mostly love, even though I didn't totally understand like early crushes. I listened to the Chicks a lot, and I really liked the song Traveling Soldier. And I wrote like a really cursed song that was sort of like Traveling Soldier that had very much like Republican vibes to it, but I didn't understand what I was saying, you know, like I didn't understand the implications. I also grew up in like a pretty conservative area. Like generally most people we grew up around were like Republican. So that was kind of the culture I was swimming in anyways, even though like my parents weren't necessarily conservative.
But it makes sense that you'd write songs like you're just writing songs about what's
to
around
country
you.
radio.
Yeah, exactly.
That was what was playing on the school bus too. Like,
you guys listen to the radio on the school bus?
Yeah, we had the radio on the bus. Yeah, I remember on cold days in the snow, like I have very vivid memories of like the KYGO being on. That was the country radio station. That was my favorite one. There was 92.5 The Wolf too, and I would have my alarm clock set to 93.3, which was the alternative rock station, KBCO, the AAA station, or KYGO, the country station. I alternate.
I'm speaking with Jobi Riccio on World Cafe. And correct me if I don't have the timeline right here, but you went to school for music. You went to Berkeley. Mm-hmm. Just as you were kind of setting off into the world, graduating from college, you're in your early 20s, pandemic hits.
Mm-hmm.
What do you remember feeling when that was happening?
Just like everyone else, I was like, this isn't going to last that long. Mm-hmm. Like, initially, just the stages of grief, denial. And I moved back home. My mom was living alone at the time and was like, oh, just come home for a while. Like, come hang. Come be in the mountains. You know, we can maybe go hiking outside in masks and be safe about it, but like you'll be able to be outside more. Like you don't want to be in a big city right now. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like this will only be a couple weeks. And then as time went by, like I just felt like it was, just moving through the stages of grief. I was living with just my mom, and my sister lived in Denver, and we would see her socially distanced and masked outdoors because my mom was at risk. And I was just super, I don't think I was totally aware of how lonely I was.
Sure.
But yeah, I would just see my friends on Zoom, and some of them were with their parents. Some of them stayed in Boston. We had like a really depressing virtual graduation.
You know, it's interesting because I feel like obviously for most, if not all people, that was like a challenging time. But I remember thinking how hard it would be for people, I think especially like in your early 20s when you're like, this is when I'm supposed to be going out and doing things and kind of like finding who I am and exploring. And now
I'm being like mischievous. And crazy.
Being bad. And like you're stuck on having a Zoom graduation.
Yeah. Having like drinking beers and playing cards over Zoom with your friends. It was like weird.
When you think back on that time now, even though it both feels really far away and like it just happened maybe. Does it feel like it was a learning experience at all for you? Did you get anything out of it constructive?
I think so. I think that I haven't processed it as much as I would like to. I think it taught me a lot about my relationships interpersonally, and like it made me coming more out of it in 2021, 2022, have to really start to examine like, okay, do I have codependent? Like, I think a lot of people were like, do I have codependent relationships? Like being in such close proximity with people, forming, not to use this like the word pod, like being in just these small, I think we both all like collectively felt the importance of community, and also we're like, okay, so if we're gonna all have to really lean on each other, like let's do it in maybe a healthy way.
Yeah.
And I think I eventually got there because I did end up moving into my own place in Denver with roommates and like had a bit more self-sufficiency, and then eventually moving to Nashville fall of 2021. But like then once I kind of essentially re-spread my wings and re-left the nest, it felt, it was really bizarre. Like moving back in with my mom and all that stuff. Which, I mean, that could have happened even without a pandemic.
Sure, yeah.
Like that could have just been a financial need or a, mental health need, or who knows, like any number of things could have happened where I would have needed to seek support, and I would have been lucky to have been able to do that. Yeah, honestly, had it not happened, I probably wouldn't have self-examined some stuff within my relationships and within myself that I really had to, and that I ended up doing as lockdown sort of ended.
We're going to hear a song in a minute with a lyric. You sing about being 21 with Time to Kill, and about being 23 with your friends moving to new cities. Could you talk about writing this song?
I started writing this song around 2022. And I moved to Nashville, and I was just so nostalgic for college. I missed it. I was like, why do I feel like all of a sudden I have to be in my 30s and I'm 23 and my friends live in New York or LA and are on their own journeys, and some of my closest friends from college, we were all in different cities, and for the first time I just had to experience maintaining like adult friendships, maintaining friendships long distance, and that's hard, and there's like grief in that, and going from being really close friends where you see each other every day, being in the same city, and then, me going off into this new place and trying to find my own way. And I was just really nostalgic for this experience of like going to parties, going to house shows, punk shows, drinking a lot and not thinking so much about it. I was friends with a lot of older people who were sober, and I was exploring sobriety myself, and it was what was needed for myself. But I was also like, man, I'm like pretty young. Like I was almost like resentful of having to grow up so fast. Sure. And I think a lot of people in my generation and younger generations like feel that, and it's manifested itself in different ways. But for me, I wrote that song, and I showed it to actually one of my closest friends from college, and they were like, you should finish that song. And then I finished it in maybe 2024.
And it has like a rockier sound than the first song we heard you play, The Ridge.
Yeah.
Why was that the right vibe to tell this story?
I think the angst.
Yeah.
That like,
we're back at the angst again. Yeah.
Yeah, the extended adolescence.
Totally.
I always wanted to do rock also. I never want to be one thing, and I never really want to play one genre. I'm very like I love so many types of music. I'm such a fan of so many types of music, and it's hard, I think, having somewhat of a traditional music background, playing bluegrass as a teenager and country music.
Yeah.
There's so much pressure to like prove your cred and prove that you deserve to be playing this music that has the like actually such a beautiful tradition. And that's, yeah, it's a complicated thing, but I'm also like over here still listening to Indian alternative rock.
Totally.
And when I was in college, I would be going to bluegrass jams at my friend's house and then going and moshing at punk shows the next night. So it's always been true to who I am. And only recently, I feel like in music has it become kind of trendy to like kind of have like twangy alternative rock, or it's been trendy again. Twangy alternative rock, indie twang, or whatever they're calling it these days. So I'm grateful that that's happening because I've always felt aligned with that. But yeah, I think that's why it was just the way that the chords came together. And yeah, I was really inspired by artists like Courtney Barnett. And
Well, let's hear it. This is Jobi Riccio, Buzzkill, World Cafe.
I don't wanna be the salt in the sugar, the fruit that is bitter. You expect it to be so sweet. I don't wanna be the fly in the honey, a gray month of Sundays. Life can
Jobi Riccio with Buzzkill, song from her upcoming new album, Face the Feeling. Jobi's my guest on World Cafe. I'm Raina Douris. In 2023, the year you released your debut album, Whiplash, you were awarded the John Prine Songwriter Fellowship from Newport Festivals Foundation. And that fellowship, just sort of the quick description, it's given to one young songwriter every year who, quote, embodies John's spirit. And it also means you get a spot at the Newport Folk Festival. First, you actually did meet John Prine at one point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us that story?
Yeah, I went to this music camp called Grammy Camp. And I went as a songwriter. You basically go for different music tracks. So you can go and be a producer or a bass player, a vocalist. And I went for songwriting, and you have to audition. And he was playing at the Grammy Museum in LA. It was in LA. And our songwriting teacher was like, we're going to go get to see this great legendary songwriter, John Prine. And I was so excited because my dad showed me John Prine a few years prior. And I had actually, we were at the Telluride Bluegrass Festival. I'd only been to Telluride one time and John Prine was playing. And I missed his set because I was seeing, I think, the Punch Brothers with my sisters or something. And my dad went and saw John Prine by himself. And we were like, oh, who'd you go see? And he was like, I went and saw this artist, John Prine. And then we listened to his CD on the way back, just me and my dad. And I was like, Dad, why didn't you come get me? This is the greatest songwriting. And I was like, but anyways, fast forward a couple years. I'm at Grammy Camp. We go see John Prine. And then we get to go backstage and meet him. Like this little camp of 5 young, I think we're 17-year-olds. None of these other kids, except for maybe one of them, knew who he was. In my memory, sorry to the kids if they're listening. They're like, oh, I remember him. Yeah, and I met him and I cried and I told him how much his music meant to me and my dad and just thanked him, and he was super nice and was like, thank you so much. Yeah.
How did you react when you found out that you were going to be the recipient of that fellowship?
I cried and screamed, and I called my dad.
What did he say?
He was like, oh my God. He was so excited. He was thrilled. Yeah.
I feel like winning a songwriting award named for, one of the greatest songwriters ever, one of your own personal heroes, is very, very exciting, but also could be a lot of pressure. Like there's a lot to live up to there. Yeah. Is that something that you felt after winning that?
Yeah, I think I feel it also now, still continued, especially kind of painting with different palettes and different sounds. I don't want people to be like, but you were the John Prine songwriter. Why aren't you doing more John Prine stuff? Like that's always gonna be a songwriter that I'm influenced by. And I mean, John's music, there's lots of different sounds. I listen to a song like Saddle in the Rain. It's that thing's got horns on it, Like I think that maybe I feel more of the pressure now, weirdly, just to be like. But yeah, it was scary to go to Newport and play.
What did it feel like up there on stage?
Oh, it was really scary. I think the scariest part was singing his songs, not even playing my own songs. Just doing it justice.
I want to get back to your upcoming new album, Face the Feeling. I know that you wrote the songs for your debut over a few years in your early 20s. Writing Face the Feeling, you're a little older, you're a little more experienced. Mm-hmm. How did your approach change when you started working on your second record?
The writing time was a bit more condensed. I think it's true what they say about you have forever to write your first record. And this was similar, but it was also like a lot of the songs were more in a shorter period of time, written more in tandem with each other. And I think also interpersonally, like I just hear a lot of growth within myself and musically on this record. And I hope people can hear that too when they listen to it.
The title, Face the Feeling, is that kind of a mission statement of sorts for the record?
Yeah, I would say so. It comes from a lyric in the song Pilar, New Mexico. And the lyric is, make myself turn and face the feeling and sit inside of it. And that is something I feel I had to do throughout the course of writing these songs. That whole song, too, is really feels like me doing that. And I hope, my hope is for people listening to the record that it allows them the space to do that and to sit with things and process things that are going on in their own lives, because there's so much going on in this world. There's so much distraction. There's so much advertising. When I was making this record, I got off my phone for the first time, and I remember journaling about it. And I drew a picture of my phone and wrote, this is kind of like corny and cringe, but I wrote like, this is a billboard on, like I drew a picture of an iPhone and wrote that because I was just like, I just can't get over the idea that like we're so advertised to
Constantly.
Constantly pace.
So much that we don't even think about it at all.
Yeah, I've tried to become more cognizant and aware of it because it's scary, and I think we need to be. And also, like, I want to be able to process the world around me. I want to be able to make my own decisions, informed decisions. And I want to be able to remember my life and not numb out. And I was feeling myself starting to do that a little bit because I was so overwhelmed. And I was touring so much, and the news was stressing me out and stressing out everyone around me. And I was like, to get organized to fight against this stuff, like, we have to feel through it. We have to process it. Like, we have to let ourselves face it. Yeah. And also take breaks from it, and like all of that stuff. It's hard. It's hard and complicated.
It's designed to be hard.
Yeah. But the cover of the record is a big screen that is meant to be sort of a billboard-esque thing that says face the feeling. Yeah. For that reason. It's very heady.
I like it.
Become very heady.
I mean, I think a lot of people, including myself, listening to that will really feel what you're saying about like, that feeling of being overwhelmed by it, and just the wanting to remember your life instead of being kind of numbed out to it. Yeah. These are really powerful. And just hearing you articulate that, I feel like that's a feeling I've had that I haven't been able to put into words. And that's, it's pretty real. Did those journals that you were, like when you were journaling, did any of that stuff turn into songs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say Pilar, New Mexico started as that. Yeah. And then that became a song. Yeah, I mean, Wildfire season, I've journaled about that topic a lot.
We're going to come back to that in a little bit for sure. Yeah. But I am kind of curious because I know there are songs of yours that they kind of come together over like years. Yeah. Where do you keep them? Is it like, do you just write little bits and pieces down? How does it actually, how do you organize that stuff for yourself?
I have in the past used a lot of voice memos, and I still do. I write things down now more on physical paper in my journal. So a lot of it is just in my one journal. Yeah. I used to use the notes app on my phone, but I'm trying to get away from that until the song is like until I'm in the editing phase of the song. But when I'm in the creative phase, I want to be like pen and paper. And just be really tactile with it. And then when I'm moving lines around, it's faster to be maybe on my laptop.
Sure, yeah.
In a Word document or, something like that. But I'm just trying to have more physical proof of my art too, and less digital.
Absolutely.
And I'm noticing that I'm enjoying writing things in a journal just like I used to when I wrote my first songs as a teenager.
If you're just joining us, I'm speaking with Jobi Riccio today. Her upcoming new album is called Face the Feeling. There's a song about love that I want to ask you about on this album called Coyote, where you're singing from the perspective of, I think, yourself as a child, dreaming about a love working out. What's the story behind this song?
Well, this is a song that I wrote. I was going to go on a hike. I went to the Stone Door in outside of Nashville. It's this nice hike, and I didn't plan to write a song, but I rented this cabin, and I was like, I just need to get out of Nashville, and I need to go on a hike. I was really missing Colorado, and I brought my guitar, and I brought my bike and my hiking shoes, and I was like, I'm gonna go on a little retreat, and I'm gonna go on a little adventure. I'm gonna bring my guitar, but I'm not gonna put any pressure on myself to write anything. And this song came out from a memory of childhood, and I was thinking and reflecting on things that I had heard from other queer people I had dated, people I'm in community with, about having people in your life that you knew in childhood that you tried to come out to, and having that not go well, or maybe people that you were super close friends with and had a very confusing friendship with, and just how confusing really close friends and attachment can be when you're young and queer and not out, but maybe you're out to yourself. And also how beautiful that is, and how beautiful it is to be a young queer child. And so I think I wrote the song for myself and also for all of those people. I was like, no one's ever written a song about this. This shared experience that I think a lot of queer people have, being like, I'm different, and there's a sadness to it in the song.
I mean, the last line of the song is it's a gut punch. Like, I screwed the lid on tight and smiled, almost convinced myself to for a little while. And so that's like from your own experience. Yeah. Well, I'm going to play some, and we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more. Here's Coyote, Jobi Riccio, World Cafe.
Can I come over after school to the woods behind your house where we make all the rules? Let's brew a potion out of rainwater. You always scrape your knee digging in the dirt, but it never seems to hurt. Your mom thinks that I am too loud. She don't like how big you laugh whenever I'm around. Mine thinks you're a wolf dressed like a sheep, but I know you're just a coyote. You're just a coyote. You could talk me into anything. I just can't wait to grow up, move to an East Coast city, and maybe finally fall in love in an apartment the size of a shoe. You'd come and visit me, won't you? Won't you? Future is never what you think. You and I just never were the same. after I talked to you that day. Guess I liked you a bit too much for the stiff collared place where we grew up. So I screwed the lid on tight and smiled. Almost convinced myself to for a little
That's Coyote from Jobi Riccio, my guest today on World Cafe. So when you wanted to be a songwriter, I mean, you're openly queer now. Were you always comfortable with the idea of being openly queer on a stage as a songwriter?
No.
No? What did it take to get there?
Seeing other queer songwriters, for sure. I think the culture shift around that. Seeing more queer and trans people take up space in country music was very healing for me. A couple years ago, they were given a lot more space, and I think that helped me and others kind of be like, okay, we can do this, we can be here. But also just I grew up. And I became more comfortable and secure in my sexuality and who I am. And I just wasn't 21 anymore or 19 and insecure and feeling like, oh, maybe I'm not gay enough or I'm not straight enough or I'm not, insert thing here enough. Like I was just kind of like, you know what? I am who I am and I don't have to prove it to anyone. And also I don't have to always... like as an artist, my music is the most important thing. And my music is queer music because I'm queer. Mm-hmm. And that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, and I think, there's this sort of, when you're a queer person, I don't know if you feel this, but I feel like sometimes when people talk about it, there can be this expectation that you're going to be like it's like a political activist thing just because you are who you are, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that like singing songs about queer love, whether it is to like take a stand or just because you're simply singing a song about your own experience, is powerful because there might be a young person out there who felt like you, who hears that and is like, that's me. Mm-hmm. How do you think about music as a force for change?
Music makes people joyful. Music makes people grieve. Music makes people express. Music makes people process. And in order to move forward and in order to know what the next thing, and in order to get back up and keep fighting, people need to be able to move through things. Mm-hmm. And music is the thing that I reach for when I am like at my lowest or my highest. Music is also a community space. It's a third space. Live music specifically. Like, that is powerful. Being in a room with people and using your voice, I mean, if you choose to do so in the context of music, like there's a lot of power there. Mm-hmm. I think that my friend Carsey said something really beautiful about music being a gift from the past. And this is Carsey Blanton. She said that music is a gift from the past and it is our duty to sing it into the future.
I love that.
And that's just it. Like, that's our duty as artists. It doesn't belong to us. It's not about she nailed that. So I am just repeating that because I couldn't possibly say it better.
I do want to play one more song from the new record, and it does tie into some of the work you've done to like actually change things for the better. You partnered with Conservation Colorado when you released this song as a single, and it is called Wildfire Season. And I know this is also based on where you're from, Morrison, Colorado, and just Colorado kind of in general. Could you tell us about witnessing the wildfires near your home?
I started this song in 2020, and I wasn't living in Morrison anymore. I was living in the suburbs of Denver with my mom. And I just kept having this intrusive thought that what if these fires that are going on all over the West and that were happening actively in Colorado, what if they come and burn down Morrison? And I was obsessed with going to this ice cream place, this soft serve place called the Blue Cow. It's now called the Cow, but I still call it the Blue Cow. And I was like, what should I go get an ice cream like for like what if my hometown burns down? Like it was like this intrusive thought that would keep me up at night. And now we've seen people experiencing that. And then a few years later, actually, I think it was a year and a half later, there was a fire that raged through the suburbs of Boulder. And I had a cousin who had to evacuate due to that fire. And that was the fire that made me finish this song. And I was living in Nashville at the time. And I remember seeing pictures from that fire, and I was so upset and so distressed that it just felt like nothing would happen because of this. And of course, seeing the LA fires, the song had already been done and been, like seeing the fact that now it's not just fires and natural disasters aren't just something that happen far away. Like they are touching people in communities where people live every day. I mean, not every day, but more and more frequency. And it's due to the climate crisis.
Yeah.
And the fact that we have people actively working at the highest levels to erase that fact and to cover up the data that people have spent their lives collecting. Firing those people, it's heinous, it's shameful, it's horrifying. And I am putting out this song and giving money to an amazing organization that works to get green leaders in power. It's like the least I can feel like I can do in the wake of seeing that touch a community that I'm a part of, and also like LA, a community that I'm tied to.
Yeah.
I did a wildfire fundraiser concert in Nashville when that happened. My first job was I was an environmental canvasser for a different grassroots organization, Environment Colorado. And my sister, Erin, works for an environmental nonprofit and called Wilderness Workshop. And I'm really inspired by her work, even though a lot of things that she's done have been undone by the Trump administration. She's still getting up, going to work, fighting for what she believes in, fighting to protect public lands in our home. And I'm so inspired by her. And I think that I would be working in conservation or forestry if I wasn't a songwriter or a musician. So
when I saw you perform it on stage, you spoke before it. You said like this is for, and you kind of you talked about who the song was for. Do you want to say who it was for again here for people who maybe haven't seen you do that?
Today I sent it out to 3 communities: Nashville, Oxford, Mississippi, and Minneapolis. And that is because we just had a horrible ice storm in the South that has left still like 100,000 people in Nashville, including me, without power. It's like day 6 for me personally. Oxford, Mississippi got it way worse than us, and they're going to not have power until March. And that felt important to speak about that because we shouldn't be having an ice storm that is this catastrophic, that is also just like putting people out until, you know, months and months have gone by. That's just a byproduct of greed of people in the oil and gas industry, of CEOs who knew that the climate crisis would happen, and are doing nothing about it, and actively working to make it worse. And we should also have better infrastructure in the South, and our leaders are doing nothing to make that better. My senator in Tennessee was just in D.C. hanging out with Nicki Minaj. She was not doing anything. And then I sent it out to the people of Minneapolis who are out in the streets fighting against ICE, for their bravery, because all of the struggles that we have are interconnected. And, you know, like, they're fighting in the bitter cold, which isn't new for that region. But I mean, we're going to see as things continue to unfold in the climate crisis, like more and more natural disasters. And I don't know if I'm speaking super eloquently about this, but it just felt right to put a song out, or to dedicate a song that is about having a lot of rage and grief at people in power, to those people who are fighting.
Well, and thank you for giving us, it's kind of what we were talking about earlier. Thank you for giving us a place to kind of communally feel that.
Yeah.
You know?
I know y'all had a protest here for ICE, against ICE,
Mm-hmm.
I think 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Couple days ago.
There've been a couple of them. Yeah.
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 And yeah, if we weren't buried under different kind of ice, we had a protest and some vigils, but then we had the ice storm and things have been.
Well, it is a very powerful song, and we're going to hear it right now. This is Jobi Riccio, Wildfire Season.
My hometown's a few short years from burning down to the ground. So I drive up for an ice cream cone from the soft serve joint before it's all gone. I've been having a hard time this week. The smoke is so thick and the news is so bleak, and the richest in the history of man keep talking about space like it's the promised land, while records break and waters rise and we're haunted by the hands of time, 'cause wildfire season's here again. Each year it's harder to pretend that we've been doing all we can. Each year we're harder to defend. Oh yeah. And I got my life ahead of me. In a few years I'll be 29. I am feeling terrified. And I'm not immune to positivity, but it's dangerously close to complacency. And you never miss your water till your well runs dry, and you see the ash falling from the sky. 'Cause wildfire season's here again. Year it's harder to pretend that we've been doing all we can. Year we're harder to defend. Oh, wildfire season's here again. Each year it's harder to pretend that we've been doing all we can. Each year we're harder to pretend. Each year it's harder to pretend it's just a season.
Jobi Riccio, Wildfire Season. It's from her new album, Face the Feeling, coming out May 15th. Jobi, I want to thank you so much for being here. I enjoyed this conversation with you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. I enjoyed this too.
I'm Raina Douris, back in a moment with more World Cafe.